Hello everyone and welcome to E-Class English Studies. Today we shall be considering a very important topic. There have been questions around this topic, but questions have been coming in here and there asking that we do a video on this. And the topic, as you can see on the screen, is how to distinguish between finite and non-finite verb. Okay, most of our students within and outside the country have been asking questions around this, so we've decided to come up with a video on this. Remember, this lesson is powered by Sam's English e-tutorial, and as you know, we are based in Nigeria, West Africa. This is actually part 1 of this lesson, and we shall continue with the next part, which is part 2 subsequently. I am your preceptor, Samuel Ikechukwu Emochogun. Thank you once again for joining us. You can also subscribe our YouTube channel at Sam's English e-tutorial. Kindly follow us on our various social media handles. Alright, thank you. Let's get into the details of this meeting. Alright, now let's start with the lesson objective, since we intend to make it a bit comprehensive. Now, as part of the lesson objective, we shall define finite verb and non-finite verb respectively. We shall identify each in sentences and of course explain the characteristics of finite verb, and then make finite non-finite verb finite. And we shall also have questions to answer, very simple questions to answer. Alright, now let's proceed. First, when we talk about the definition, let's do it this way. Let's distinguish the definition in terms of finite and non-finite verbs. So using this diagram, I'm going to define it in a very simple way and manner. Now first, let's look at the column for finite verb. Finite verb is a form of verb that takes a specific subject. So in other words, the subject might be singular or plural. Again, it can meaningfully stand alone without an auxiliary verb. And then also note that a finite verb can either be a present tense verb or a past tense verb. So this definition gives us a clear picture of what a finite verb is. First, it is a verb that takes a specific subject, singular or plural, and then it can meaningfully stand alone without an auxiliary verb, and then of course it can be marked for tense. In other words, it is either a present tense verb or a past tense verb. On the other hand, non-finite verbs do not take specific subject. That is the opposite of a finite verb. Secondly, they cannot make meaning without relevant auxiliary verbs. We shall see this in the course of this meeting. And then finally, it occurs as progressive form of a verb or a past participle form of a verb, not present and past tense. So they are just quite opposite of each other. Now let's take a look at sentential example of finite and non-finite verb. Now let's take a look at these very few sentences. Now for finite verb, you have the following there. The man ate the food. Take a look at that. The man ate the food. Where's our finite verb there? Ate. Take a look at that verb. It does not require an auxiliary. Okay, now consider this. Tom goes to work daily. If you take a look at this, you realize that goes is a present tense verb, ate is a past tense verb. So these characteristics qualify these two verbs in this sentence as finite verbs. On the other hand, a non-finite verb, take a look at non-finite verb. Yeah, this is an example of a non-finite verb. And then the next one, Tom is going to work daily. Going here is an example of a non-finite verb. Now take a look at this. Non-finite verbs cannot make meaning. They cannot be meaningful in a sentence without an auxiliary. Look at the auxiliary there. Can you see the auxiliary? Has and is. They can't make meaning without an auxiliary verb. So if you take away this auxiliary verb in this sentence, you're going to have the man eating the food. It will make sense. It will make meaning. So they require auxiliary verbs to make their meaning complete in a sentence. Now, what's the difference between these verbs again? Take a look at them. Like I said earlier, finite verb can either be a past tense or a present tense verb, whereas non-finite verb can be the past participle form of a verb as in eating, or the progressive form of a verb as in what? Going. Alright, now that takes us to the next point. Now let's make non-finite verb non-finite. I've actually explained this before. So non-finite verb do not take specific subject, and of course they can be meaningful without taking other verbs, and then they can either be, please take notes, they can either be past participle or the progressive form of a verb. Now, to make a non-finite verb finite, take a look at what I'm going to do. The example there on the screen explains it further. Now, look at that sentence. The boy has gone to school. The second one, the boy is going to school. Now, like I said earlier, gone is a past participle form of a verb, and so it is a non-finite verb. Going is a progressive form of a verb, and so it's a non-finite verb. So to make non-finite verb finite. Now, what do you mean by finite? To make it meaningful. To make a non-finite verb meaningful in a sentence, you need an auxiliary. You need an auxiliary verb. So that is very important, you note. So these are non-finite verbs. So for you to use them, you need an auxiliary verb, relevant auxiliary verb. That is exactly what you need to make a non-finite verb finite. So to make a non-finite verb meaningful, you need an auxiliary verb. That's exactly what we're talking about. Now, quickly, the next point, very important. When we talk about major characteristics of finite verb, especially in the present tense, please note this. Let's do this using this diagram. This diagram is going to give us a clear picture of what we are talking about. All right, now we've designed the diagram. Let's go. When we talk about present tense verb, a present tense verb can either be singular or plural verb. Please note this. So a present tense verb can either be singular or a present, either singular or plural verb. Please take note. By this I mean not just nouns. Nouns are known for singularity and plurality. Verbs also have the same characteristics. So that means we have a singular verb and a plural verb. So when we talk about non-finite verb in the present tense, they will always indicate singularity, as we can see soon, and then they will also indicate plurality. So take a look at that. When we talk about subject here, subject is that part of a sentence. A subject is that part of a sentence that performs the action contained in the verb. Okay, and so a subject can be a pronoun, can also be a noun, can be a noun phrase, can be a noun clause. So that is subject. When you hear the term subject in grammar, this is what we are talking about. It can be a noun, a pronoun, a noun phrase, or a noun clause. Now we are going to use a pronoun as our subject. Now, he is an example of a singular subject. Take a look at this. He is an example of a singular subject. The plural subject will now be they. Can you see this? So they is an example of a plural subject. Now for the verb, you have a singular verb. Yeah, like I said earlier, the singular verb will always take letter S. Letter S. Take note. While the plural verb will not take letter S. Does not take letter S. Okay. So now, what do we mean by this? Agreements. You know, we talked about agreement. So when the verb is singular, so that means these two verbs, as we see here, they are present tense verb. So when they are present tense verb, they can either be singular or plural. Take note. Now, where this is the case, I want you to note this. Once this is the case, okay, it means that the agreement must go this way. The agreement must always go this way. He, take a look at this, and then, yeah, that is how the agreement goes. The singular subject goes with the singular verb, and the plural subject goes with the plural verb. So let's demonstrate that using this sentence. He loves food. So look at he, singular subject, and then singular verb, loves. All right. Now take a look at the next point. The analysis here. He agrees with the verb loves. That's exactly what we're talking about. And then the next one, they love food. So they is a plural subject which must agree with the plural verb love. And that is the explanation here. I hope this is very clear. I hope this is very clear. Please. All right. So they agree with the plural verb love. Always remember that the subject, when it is singular, will go with a singular verb, and the plural subject, when it is, all right, take note, when it is plural, will always go with a plural verb. Okay. Now That takes us to the next point, summary of what we've just done. So by way of summarizing what we've done so far, always remember that when we talk about non-finite verb, okay, we talk about the singular form of a verb, okay, which is the S verb. We talk about the plural form of the verb, which is the infinitive verb. We'll talk about the past tense of a verb, which is what you have there on the screen. So from what we've done here, goes is an example of a singular verb, begins, singular verb, and then the infinitive verb or plural verb, you have go and begin, and then you have the next one there, past tense. So all of these group are seen here. We refer to them as finite verb. Please take notes. We refer to them as finite verb. While the rest, you have the past participle and the progressive form, going, gone, begun, and beginning. So the whole of these are seen here. We refer to them as what? The non-finite verb. So this is actually a summary of what we've done so far. And then we also said again, by way of reminder, we say finite verbs include singular verbs, and then of course you have infinitive and past tense verb, while non-finite verb includes past participle and progressive forms of verbs. And then the non-finite verb again can be made finite by taking auxiliary verb. This is actually a summary of what we've done so far. Now this evaluation question is for you. Take a look at them and then try as much as possible to send in your answer. You can take a screenshot and take your time to answer the questions therein. Alright, having said this, it's time to call it a day until we meet in our next version of this topic. Alright, thank you very much. Remember, I am Samuel Ikechukwu Emochuoku. May I also request that you subscribe our YouTube channel at Sam's English E-Tutorial. Also follow us on our various social media handles and you'll have more of this. Thank you. At this point, I just have to sign out. Bye for now.